Newsletters can be incredible businesses that spit off piles of cash with a small team. And that's why I love them. But I don't want you to take my word for it. In today's video, I want to show you 5 newsletters that are currently making over $1 million a year and how they actually make their money. And stick around to the end because I have an honorable mention that I couldn't make this video without, so you're going to want to see that. All right, so let's jump right into it. At number one, we have GVL Today. And I just want to say all of these newsletters, because they're not public companies, we don't know 100% exactly what their revenue is. So a lot of this is going to be based off of guessing as well as public numbers that have been put out there by the founders or interviews by the founders. So all of this is not exactly verified by actual public financials, but I'm going to give you my word. All of these are doing over $1 million. So starting at GVL Today, GVL is a Greenville, South Carolina local newsletter. They are owned by 6am City, and 6am City is pretty interesting because they basically do a ton of different local newsletters. So as you can see, they're a pretty big team. These are all of the locations, but they actually got their start in Greenville, South Carolina. This is where they are still headquartered at. So this is like their pilot or their Trojan horse sort of newsletter here. And I know that this one itself does over $1 million a year in revenue, and it has a really small team. So I think they have this 2 people on the editorial team and 1 person in sales. And as you can see, there's ads all over this website. We have these ones right here. This one, senior living in Greenville. So there's ads all over the website and in the newsletter as well. So if we take a look at one of the newsletters, let's pull up the latest newsletter. And as you can see, there's a big ad here for Breeze Airlines, which they have enterprise type clients that are advertising in here for their flights at the Greenville International Airport. So that's how they're making most of their money. Now, if we dig in a little bit deeper, we can see that 6am City raised $10 million in a Series A fund back in 2024, I believe it was, the end of 2023 or in 2024. As of February, they say they have roughly 1.4 million free email subscribers. And it said that they did roughly 8 million in revenue in 2023. So I'm sure that number is up a lot in 2024. If I had to guess, I'd probably say between the $10 to $15 million range, being that they just raised $10 million. They're launching a bunch of other newsletters, and I think they're actually doing agency work as well. I'd probably say that they're up a bit from there. And then if we look at their advertising page here, we can see that they have still says 1.4 million newsletter subscribers. Now, because they're in geo locations, there's not like a ton of growth, right? So like I think Greenville, South Carolina population is 72,000. Now, I'm sure that they go out to like Columbia and Spartanburg. So like it's probably a total of like 100,000. But I would say they probably only have maybe 40 to 60,000 people on their email list there, and they do $1 million a year. So it's not huge, and they can't grow to 1 million subscribers, right? Because there's just not that many people in that location. So that kicks us off at number 1 here, which is a local newsletter. And one of my favorites because it really shows that with these local newsletters, you can really scale them and have them be good businesses with not a lot of employees and really good revenue. All right, and coming in at number 2, we have TLDR. If you don't know what that stands for, it's too long, didn't read. But TLDR is all about tech and AI. They are a tech-focused newsletter. So if you are an engineer at a B2B SaaS company or startup, you're an ideal reader for this newsletter. And because they're B2B focused, the B2B ad rates are much higher. I think in a deck, so here in Growth in Reverse, shout out Chanel Basillo. I might be saying that wrong. Her deep dives on these newsletters are awesome. I believe this one came out in 2024. Said they were at 750,000 subscribers and around $5 million in annual revenue. Now, TLDR has an interesting model in the sense that they don't just have one newsletter. They have their flagship newsletter, which is a TLDR newsletter that's all about tech and basically like web dev and anything an engineer would be interested in. And then they also spin off all of these other newsletters. So like product management, DevOps, founders, marketing, crypto, fintech. So any sort of niche that they think is going to be valuable, they use their Trojan Horse newsletter to advertise their other newsletters in. and basically grow all of those other newsletters so that they can specifically target those and they have more ad inventory, right? So now instead of selling one $15,000 ad in their flagship newsletter, now they can also sell another $5,000 ad in their marketing newsletter. So it just gives them a lot more ad inventory, and they're basically able to use a flywheel to grow all of these at the same time. If we go back to their landing page here, we can see it says join 1.2 million readers. So it looks like they've grown from that 750 up to 1.2. Now I think they have 5 million that they advertise across all of theirs. So yeah, reach over 5 million tech professionals. So that's across all of their newsletters. But this is pretty impressive, right? Like all of their advertising comes from sponsorships that I'm aware of. So you have your quick links, your secondary placement, and then your primary placement here. So this is going to be like the top dog, and this is the mid tier, and this is the low tier. I think she actually has a media kit in here. Yeah. So we can see last year, it would have costed $15,000 to get that primary, which is about $4 to $7 cost per click, $10,000 for the secondary, and the $5,000 for the lowest startup quick link section. So if you sell out an entire newsletter with all of those ads, that's $30,000 every time they click send on that email. And somewhere in this, it said that Dan, who's the founder of TLDR, was spending something like 30 minutes actually writing these newsletters. So wow, think about that. Taking 30 minutes to write a newsletter, clicking send, and $30,000 shows up. Now, obviously, it's not that easy. They don't sell out all of their newsletters, but if you go ahead and just take a look at some of their past newsletters, so let's see if we can pull up an example here. Here we go. So here's an example from the newsletter today. We can see that Vanta is the sponsor here. They get this whole entire section to advertise Vanta, and they probably paid somewhere around $15,000 for that ad. Maybe a little bit less if they bought multiple, but that's a lot of money to show up in an email. That wraps up number 2, TLDR. They're a really cool newsletter, and I think a lot of people can take inspiration from them. This isn't super technical. As you can see, it's just links and then briefs on this news. They're not doing some crazy designed newsletter. It's super simple, and they make it work. Now, up at number 3, we have MarketBeat, and I just pull up the website here, and you can see I'm already hit with a Google ad. So clearly, that's part of their monetization strategy. They just have programmatic Google ads running at all times on their websites. Now, there's a lot going on this webpage, and they make money in a lot of different ways. They have a ton of different newsletters. They're constantly posting new content to their blog, basically like blog articles. They post a lot of YouTube videos. It's all about the financial market, so the stock market and everything that has to do with that. So it's a constant 24-hour news cycle. So they always have a new story to write about, right? Like why Tesla's up 5%, why Tesla's down 5%, why Apple's not moved in the last 30 days. There's always a story to write about, which is one of the reasons why the financial industry and the financial niche is just so lucrative. It's also, it's all about money. Now, Matt Paulson, the founder of MarketBeat, is pretty prolific on Twitter, which is awesome for us because it means that we're able to get a glimpse into the numbers. He tweeted not too long ago here, so January 17th at the beginning of this year, 2025, going to try to hit 50 million in revenue this year. We did 40 million last year with 19 people. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a pretty sweet business to me. $2 million roughly per employee, a little bit more than that. And then he gave us this other post that broke it down a little bit more. Pat Walls from Starter Story actually did a story on him not too long ago. I think it was a year or so ago, so 2023. 30 million revenue, 100% bootstrap, 4 million email subscribers. So Matt gave us an update here in 2024, at the end of 2024, and said 40 million revenue. So he grew 10 million in revenue 2023 to 2024. Still 100% bootstrapped, 5.1 million email subs. So another 1.1 email subs. Team size 18. So looks like 18 or 19 employees is their sweet spot. And traffic is 10 million visits per month on SEO. And growth is still SEO, paid ads, and YouTube. Now, I know in one of his other posts, he said his growth strategy has moved a lot to paid ads because it's more repeatable, right? So like SEO, you're just like at the mercy of Google sending you traffic and new subscribers. But with paid ads, you can basically guarantee that, hey, if I put $1 to $3 to $4 in this machine, it's going to spit me out 1 subscriber. So he really likes that. But MarketBeat is a really interesting business to me because it's such a small team. It does almost $50 million a year. It's on track to do that. And they actually don't sell sort of what you'd call your traditional primary or buyout sponsorships. So when you go to one of their newsletters, it's not going to be like sponsored by Vanta or JP Morgan. Maybe they've done that in the past, but most of their revenue comes through essentially like affiliate marketing. So they have deals set up with big financial product companies like Agora. They basically sell like stock picks or like finance courses and things like that. And so they just get a percentage of those sales. And I think it's actually like 110%. So for example, if Agora knows that if they can get someone on their $100 a year newsletter, and every 10 people they get on that $100 a year newsletter, one of them subscribes to their $5,000 a year newsletter, they're willing to pay MarketBeat $120 for every person that signs up for that $100 newsletter, because they know they're going to get paid back when one of them subscribes to their $5,000 a year newsletter or financial product. So they have a pretty lucrative setup here. And basically, MarketBeat knows it as long as they keep plugging money into paid ads or content that drives more traffic, that flywheel always hits, and then they get paid by Agora, and that's where a lot of the revenue comes from. That's where I think 80 to 90% of the revenue comes from, is through that advertising. I guess you could probably throw Google programmatic ads in there as well. And then they also have like their own education courses. Now, I think Matt has said in the past that only makes up like 10% of their revenue. I'm sure they'd like to have more of that because it is recurring revenue, but as of right now, that's not making up a ton of their revenue. All right, now coming in at number 4, we have The Gist. And The Gist is an interesting sort of niche newsletter. It's a sports newsletter, but rather than focusing on only the top like men's sports, like college basketball, baseball, soccer, all of those, they make an effort to cover more of women's sports. So they still cover men's and women's, but they started out as more of a women's sports focused newsletter. And as we said on the page right here, you can see we're hit with a Google ad. So clearly programmatic Google ads is a part of their monetization strategy here on their actual website. Then if we pull up one of their newsletters, let's see, sports newsletter. So powered by Every Women's Marathon, powered by Team Milk. So as you can see, all of their newsletters have sponsors. And so that's probably where most of their revenue is coming from. Again, Chanel from Growth in Reverse did a great write-up on them. As you can see, it's a women-founded team, so all about basically women's sports. But now I think they're going a little bit broader and just saying that they cover women's and men's, because I think just like it's hard to ignore the fact that most sports fans are men. But it looks like in 2024, it said it just grew to over $2 million in revenue and 675,000 email subscribers. On their webpage right now, or on their homepage, it says that loved by 1 million fans. So they might be including something like their Instagram following or something else, but let's just take their word for it and say that they have 1 million subscribers, which means they've grown 250,000 since they did this interview, or since Chanel covered them. Now, it says they're doing $2 million in revenue right now, which is really good. Sponsorships and native advertising. The pop-up that we saw from Google is a part of that, as well as the marathon ad that we saw at the top of their newsletter. And then something that I find interesting is they have a job board. So it says the job board is bringing them around $5,000 to $7,000 per month. They're charging $150 for one job post, $360 for 3, or posting 5 for $525. Now, I'm not so sure if this is actually making them that type of money, just because when I go to their job board, it looks like they have a total of 5 jobs on here. So maybe 6. Doesn't look like they're getting a ton of action. These were all posted 4 weeks ago. So I would say this is probably something they're winding down, not spending too much time on, and probably not actually bringing in $5,000 to $7,000 a month. This is probably cyclical as well with the hiring markets, but I would say that's probably not their primary revenue source. But that's number 4, $2 million of revenue per year, small team, sports-focused newsletter. Now, coming in at number 5, we have The Rundown AI. And The Rundown is, from what I know, the biggest AI newsletter out there. They have over 1 million subscribers. There's no public numbers out there about their exact revenue, but I can tell you they're doing well over $1 million. I'm sure well into the millions of dollars. And they have a few different ways that they monetize. So like all the other newsletters, their main one is going to be sponsorship. So you can see basically all of their newsletters say together with Augment Code is the one for that one. Let's see, this one is a different one. I don't even know what company that is. This one from the other day is with HubSpot. From what I've seen with the rundown, they fill out almost all of their ad spots. So I would say that they're doing very good on the sponsorship side. And if they have a primary and a secondary in there, and let's just go off of that TLDR pricing where they're charging, $15,000 for a primary, and then let's say like $5,000 per secondary, and then they might even have some more ad placements in there. I would say they're bringing anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 to $35,000 per newsletter that they send out, depending on their sponsorship fill rate. Now, some other ways that I know they're making money here is through their university. So you can see the Rundown University here. It's basically AI courses and how to use AI in your work. If we come down to how much does it cost, it's $999 per year. So that's $1,000 per year, or essentially like $88 per month. And I don't have any specific numbers on how many people that they have here. Oh, join 5,000 members. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so let's just assume that all of those people paid $1,000. That's $5 million a year in recurring revenue from that course. I mean, that is insane for the university. Now, I don't know I think they used to have monthly and now they're only doing yearly memberships. But even if it's just half that, I mean, that is 2,500 members at $1,000 a year. I mean, $2.5 million. Wow. That's all I'm going to say there. And that's not even the end of how they're monetizing here. So they also have the AI tools database here. This is just a directory of really cool AI tools, or the latest AI tools to check out. So they have a bunch in here. I'm not sure if they're actually charging some of these tools to be in here. My guess is that they are, that you have to pay to get placed in here. But I believe they also have referral codes in here. Yeah. So they're using affiliate plays in here as well. So anytime someone visits Pictory from this and then signs up, they're going to get an affiliate commission. Now, it's tough to say exactly how much they're making from this, but I would say that's another substantial revenue stream for them. Now, lastly, they're also using the TLDR playbook from what I've seen. So it looks like they're launching the Rundown Tech, AI, and Robotics. So similar to how TLDR sort of has their initial newsletter that has the most subscribers, like the Rundown with 1 million. I believe they're using the Rundown to also break off into all these other publications that are focused on robotics, or specifically tech or engineering, or any other sort of niche that is similar to AI. And then they have all of that other ad inventory, right? So that can become a whole entire business on its own. They're doing a lot. I think they're one of the best to do it right now. Rowan, the founder, is an absolute beast. And yeah, if you're looking to build, I would take a lot of inspiration from what the Rundown is doing in the newsletter space. Now, I said I was going to have one special feature at the end if you stuck around, and I couldn't make this video without mentioning the godfather of newsletters here, which is Morning Brew, which inspired a ton of different things to be created in the newsletter space. It basically was the reason that Tyler Dank started Beehive, which then is the reason why a lot of people like Rowan started the Rundown, and all of these other newsletter businesses have been born. It's why I got into newsletters as well. So Morning Brew does roughly $70 million a year. So in this post from Austin Reef leaving Morning Brew when he was stepping down as CEO, he said they're on track to do over $70 million in 2025 with significant double-digit profit margin. Let's call it 15% or 12% profit margins on that. So they are doing really well. Now, it's hard to say exactly what they're doing from the actual newsletter. My guess is a substantial 25, 30, maybe even bigger than that is coming from the actual newsletter. That's their Trojan horse as well that helps the whole entire flywheel work at Morning Brew. But they've also launched podcast and YouTube series that are doing extremely well. So they kind of are almost using the Barstool model. They're really good at recruiting talent, specifically in the business space. So they have a ton of different revenue streams now. So they've, in addition to having their initial newsletter, they've also launched the Marketing Brew, the Daily Brew. It looks like these are the ones that they're advertising right now. So good work, brew markets. They've launched a bunch of podcasts and newsletters, but none of this would work if they didn't have success with the newsletter. They use the newsletter as a launching ground to build a business, build revenue, basically fund all of these other experiments that initially may not have worked if they didn't have the backing of the business of the newsletter actually generating revenue and feeding them traffic. So when they launch a new show, they can put it in the newsletter and send it out to 4 million people that are reading it every day. That's a launching pad that they're able to build up all of these other revenue streams. I hope that was inspiring and shows you not only how much newsletters can make, but also how big these businesses can become and the other businesses that can be launched off of these newsletters. So there's way more ways to make money than just starting up a newsletter, growing an audience, and selling ads in it. There's entire other businesses that can be built off of newsletters and entire other revenue streams that you can build. I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, drop it below. If you want to work together, hit me up. I'll leave my email in the description. And as always, appreciate you and peace.